If you've seen my previous Sonic Movie 2 theories, then you probably know that I believe that Shadow will be in the third movie. Well, today, I'm going to be elaborating on that, and showing you that not only will Shadow most likely be in the movie, but also the rest of Team Dark are very likely to appear as well. I'm Moosebig7, and without any further ado, let's get into it. Last week, we got a bunch of cool news about the future of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie franchise. It was mostly about Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but then out of nowhere, Paramount dropped a little bomb that revealed that not only will there be a third movie, but a Knuckles show on Paramount Plus as well. Since I was waiting for the IGN FanFest to see what they'd reveal about the plot before I made my next theory video, I decided to lump talking about this announcement into that video. But then I realized that this is only news and nothing that lends itself to theorizing, so I decided to skip over it for the video. However, as more time passed and I continued to ponder the various bits of news to form theories, I realized that there is at least one large implication for the Sonic Movie 3 and the Knuckles show presented by this piece of news. And at this point, I decided to give it its own video because it pertains to the third movie and show more than it does to the second movie, which is what my next big theory video will be about. So putting this there wouldn't make much sense and just clog up the video. Speaking of, if you're interested in Sonic movie theories, you should totally subscribe. I'm planning another big one to release next week, so subscribe with the bell so you won't miss it. And please, comment your own theories down below. Maybe you'll have thought of something that I haven't. Starting off with the leader of Team Dark, Shadow the Hedgehog. Some people take the red 3 in the Sonic Movie 3 logo to guarantee Shadow, but I like to go with a little more conclusive evidence. The real nod towards Shadow being a main villain in the Sonic Movie 3 is the fact that they've included the government units of nations in the second film. In the games, Shadow is heavily involved with Gun in almost all of his appearances. In Sonic Adventure 2, he's being hunted down by Gun. In Shadow the Hedgehog, Gun is heavily intertwined into almost any direction the game takes. In Sonic 06, he's downright working for Gun with Rouge. And in Sonic Forces, Gun isn't mentioned by name, but it's heavily implied that Shadow and Rouge are still working for them. So the inclusion of Gun in the second film feels like the writers are setting up an obvious Shadow plot, while using them as a generic government operations branch for fan service in the second movie. Additionally, we have a very obvious possible origin story for him. I could safely say with confidence that the game's backstory of Shadow will not be the direction they take, as Hollywood doesn't do their movies that way. Having a scientist related to the main villain develop a super weapon that conveniently looks like a dark and edgy version of the main character of the series 35 years before said main character was born, on a space station that was shut down in a government cover-up is a fine plot for the games, but I almost guarantee Hollywood won't use that because of the obvious plot hole involving Shadow looking so similar to Sonic for no reason. Instead, they'd want to provide a reason, because the number one rule in Hollywoodizing a franchise is that everything has to sound like it makes sense. Just look at the Marvel movies. They sound like they make so much more sense than their comics equivalents, even though it's all unrealistic. Anyway, the fact that Robotnik possesses a quill that radiates with Sonic's power and contains his DNA is an obvious way to make a synthesized clone, and the differences would probably be attributed to the fact that Gun probably wants a more stealthy weapon to sneak into places, so they'd make him black, and the red highlights I can't really explain. Those probably wouldn't be explained, and just a style thing. Anyway, the plot of the third movie would most likely be that Gun has taken the quill from Robotnik, and since Sonic doesn't want to be their puppet, they create Shadow. Then at this point, they might start incorporating the original story in, and maybe have, say, a certain blonde hair, blue dressed girl that Shadow bonds with while Gun is experimenting with him or modeling him or something. Then something could go wrong and Maria dies and Shadow gets mad and goes rogue and stuff.
I still remember what I promised you. For the people of this planet, I promise you revenge.
That last part, by the way, is purely speculation. I just wanted to make that clear. Now, the Knuckles show was releasing in 2023, and the third movie I assume either 2024 or 2025. They haven't revealed what either will be about, but I could only guess that the Knuckles show will be the story of Knuckles guarding the Master Emerald after he inevitably starts doing it in the Sonic Movie 2. Either that or the story of what he was doing before he met Robotnik. Maybe treasure hunting? Either way, it would be a fairly easy way to set up a certain character from the Sonic games, Rouge the Bat. For those of you who don't know, in Sonic the Adventure 2, Knuckles' whole storyline is about him having to collect the pieces of the Master Emerald after Rouge tried to steal it, accumulating in a final showdown with her. This has resulted in Rouge being associated with Knuckles a lot, and a certain scene near the end has sparked a popular ship, although I'd imagine that it happened even without the scene. I mean, there are blazing Sonic ships, so yeah. Anyway, this would be a great basis for a plot, at very least for an episode. In both the possibilities for the show I mentioned a few seconds earlier, she could either cross paths with him before he met Eggman, or come to Earth and try to steal the Master Emerald. In that first possibility, the version of the show where Knuckles hasn't met Eggman yet, she could cross paths with him on the Mushroom Planet, or wherever Knuckles is. Actually, it's kind of hard for me to theorize about this possibilities version of the show until the Sonic Movie 2 comes out, because I know practically nothing about the lore and backstory of Knuckles, Tails, or the Master Emerald. I'll revisit this when I make my video about my thoughts on the Sonic Movie 2, which again, if you don't subscribe, you might miss. In the second possibility, the version of the show where Knuckles is guarding the Master Emerald, and in my opinion the most likely version, Rouge would be one of the possibly many people trying to steal the Master Emerald. How she'd get to Earth, I don't know for sure, as we have yet to see an explanation for even Tails and Knuckles. There's actually a third possibility that's sort of a sub-possibility of the second one, and it's one where the show takes place after the events of the Sonic Movie 2, but Rouge has already met Knuckles and is either shown in a flashback, or a prior connection is simply referenced. This would make how she goes to Earth and find the Master Emerald make a little more sense, at least at this point. Now, for those of you who haven't played the games, or at least none of them with Rouge in them, the only character Rouge is associated with more than Knuckles is Shadow, teaming up with him in all of the games she's in. She's even said that she would stay with him even if the entire world were against him, so she's much more of a friend to Shadow than she might possibly be to Knuckles.
Even if you believe everyone in the world will be against you, know that I'll always remain by your side. Remember that.
I will.
If Shadow is in fact the main villain, or even just a major character in the Sonic Movie 3, and if Rouge is in fact in the Knuckles show, it would make perfect sense to have Rouge go on from the Knuckles show to the third movie where she teams up with Shadow or whatever. And if Rouge was in both the show and then the third movie, that would be an amazing in-show teaser for the film. Speaking of the film, I think that, again hinging on the possibility that Shadow's the main part of it, that E123 Omega could be in it. Honestly, at this point, it's a bit more realistic through the film's tone than Rouge, although I think that with the introduction of Tails and Knuckles, they might be looking to introduce more animal characters, but I digress. In the games, E123 Omega is a robot built by Eggman who went rogue and teamed up with Shadow and Rouge to exact his revenge on Eggman. Since then, he's pretty much been on his own, destroying everything Eggman related he can and occasionally helping Shadow in his endeavors. In the movie, he might be created by Gun to help in Shadow's missions or something, or possibly by Robotnik to combat Shadow, as Robotnik might be one of Gun's targets after the second movie, but then Omega would end up on Shadow's side or something. Well, that was my early theory about Team Dark being in the future of the Sonic movie canon. If you have any theories, please feel free to leave a comment, I might have forgotten some. If you liked this video, please like, and subscribe with the bell to be notified whenever I drop another video. See you next time, and remember, don't mess with the moose.